Thank you for tuning in to Inside Taiwan. I'm Melvin Tan. Former President Lee Teng-hui endorsed Tsai Ing-wen prior to the elections. Lee said on the 17th that Tsai's performance was an improvement on the DPP's performance 4 years ago. Lee further said that Tsai remains a potential candidate for 2016. The former president also disagreed with the perception of some that Tsai lost the election because of her refusal to recognize the 1992 consensus and claimed that Tsai lost because election day was too close in proximity to Chinese New Year instead, and that many workers in central and southern Taiwan were unable to return home to vote while students had to focus on their final exams.
While meeting with the media on the 17th, former President Lee Teng-hui said that Tsai Ing-wen did the best she could in the presidential elections. In regards to the perception of many that Tsai lost the election because of her refusal to recognize the 1992 consensus, Lee said that the real reason that Tsai lost was because election day was too close to Chinese New Year and students had to focus on their final exams rather than returning home to vote. Lee stumped for Tsai on the eve of election day despite his poor health, but Ma Ying-jeou still won the election by a margin of 800,000 votes. Lee says that he is not necessarily disappointed by how the election turned out and encouraged the DPP to continue fighting in the next election.
In addition to former President Lee Teng-hui, former DPP legislator Luo Wen-jia has also come out and said that the 1992 consensus did not play a pivotal role in the DPP's loss in the presidential election. His reasoning was that bilateral relations were not a strong point of the DPP anyway, and thus it shouldn't come as any surprise that they failed in this area. Luo also said the party should, in the future, take a more pragmatic stance and should not always take an opposing viewpoint.
Former DPP legislator Luo Wen-jia is one of the promoters of the quarterly publication Public Intellectual, along with Chinese dissident Wang Dan. During an event to promote the latest issue, Luo spoke about bilateral relations, the development of Chinese society, and his experiences in Taiwan. With regards to many people blaming DPP's defeat in the 2012 presidential election on cross-strait policy, Luo says he doesn't believe that the loss can be blamed on the 1992 consensus or cross-strait issues, as cross-strait issues have never been the DPP's forte. Luo went further to ask how the 1992 consensus can be used to determine the future if it's already 20 years old. Moreover, he also expressed his belief that the DPP cannot remain passive on the issue of cross-strait relations and cannot forever be the opposition. Thus, they need to come up with more pragmatic propositions. Following her loss, DPP presidential candidate Tsai Ing-wen resigned as party chief, so the party also has many internal issues to deal with. Tsai will remain as chairperson of the party until the end of February, and a new one will be chosen in May. There is speculation that politicians with ample administrative experience, such as Su Jin-tang or Frank Xie, may take the helm, or else one of the DPP's new generation of leaders may take over. Luo said he believes every generation has something to offer.
Newly elected legislators will assume office on February 1st. In other words, the current legislative term is ending in less than 2 weeks. But the KMT Legislative Caucus proposed to convene an ad hoc meeting this Thursday and Friday to deal with the remaining 101 articles in the draft amendment of the Organizational Act of the Executive Yuan. The opposition DPP opposes the proposal on the ground that the new legislatures have been elected and it's inappropriate to have ad hoc meetings at this time. Since the KMT-dominated proposal has met the 1/4 quorum, the meetings are set to happen this week.
Legislators elected in the recently concluded 8th legislative elections will assume office on February 1st. That means legislators of the current term will be relieved from duty within 2 weeks. But 40 legislators of the KMT caucus signed a petition hoping to convene ad hoc meetings before the upcoming Lunar New Year holidays to deal with the remaining 101 articles in the draft amendment of Organizational Act of the Executive Yuan. It was said that President Ma gave the order to have such meetings as he hopes to provide the legal basis for the newly created ministries, such as the Ministry of Agriculture, to match the timeline of the cabinet reshuffle in February. But the GPP believes there's no need to have such ad hoc meetings since the newly elected legislators and new party caucus will not be able to take part in the process. Facing the questions from the DPP caucus, the KMT stressed the additional meetings are scheduled to deal with bills that both the ruling and the opposition have agreed on. The proposal of having such meetings is passed. Legislative Speaker Wang Jingping convened a negotiation session between the ruling and the opposition in the afternoon of January 17th, but the DPP didn't take part in it. According to the KMT caucus, another negotiation session is held in the morning of January 18th as to show their respect to the opposition party. Since the proposal has passed a 1/4 quorum, the ad hoc meetings will be held as scheduled on January 19th and 20th.
In the most recent elections, the TSU and PFP were the only minority parties to reach the 5% threshold. However, Green Party Taiwan had its most successful election ever and secured 3 times as many votes as it did in the last legislative elections. The party says that its hard work over the years is finally being recognized, but experts say that voters will be forced to vote for either the KMT and DPP until the election system is reformed.
Green Party Taiwan's Pan Han-shen has unsuccessfully run for legislator twice and the Taipei City Council twice. When the Green Party Taiwan was first founded, many mistook it for the DPP. In recent years, the environment-focused party has come into its own. According to Pan, his election failures are building blocks for the future. By running in elections, he is increasing the party's visibility and disseminating its principles. In the most recent elections, the Green Party received nearly 230,000 party votes, which is 3 times more than it received in the last elections. More voters cast votes for the Green Party than the new party, and the Green Party ranked 5th in party votes received. However, the party garnered just 1.74% of total votes, which fell short of the 5% needed to secure an at-large legislative seat and get a refund on election deposits. Pan collaborated with the DPP, which didn't field a candidate in Pan's district for the first time this year. He received 24% of total votes in his district, which was a record for the Green Party. However, he came under a great deal of fire for working with the DPP. The Green Party says that this was Pan's individual decision and that party officials will continue discussing the issue. At the same time, the party will continue fighting for representation in the government.
Many students got a fright when they saw the topic of the liberal arts essay for the college entrance examination, which was being a strong winner from Laozi. However, upon carefully reading the explanation, they realized that they were being asked to provide their own opinions. Some test takers wrote about their own personal experiences, while others used famous persons as examples, such as Taiwan baseball star Wang Jianming. The general opinion was that this topic was not too hard to write about. Other topics in the exams included the martial arts novel by Jin Yong, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, and a speech given by Cloudgate Dancer Theater founder Lin Huaiming. Senior high school teachers believe the degree of difficulty of the exam was moderate this year.
The first exam was Chinese language, with a choice between vernacular Chinese and classical Chinese. Those who chose to write about classical Chinese received a topic centered around Jin Yong's martial arts novel, The Legend of the Condor Heroes. They had to select clauses that conformed with the tone of the novel. A speech given by Cloudgate Dance Theater founder Lin Huaiming was also transformed into an exam topic, with exam takers having to find viewpoints that fit in with Lin's work. Senior high school teachers said although the exam topics were not chosen from the standard teaching materials, they did cover all types of cultural topics, and the degree of difficulty was moderate. Meanwhile, the writing proficiency exam asked students to utilize their own experiences or observations to write an essay on how to be a strong winner. The students didn't find this topic very difficult to write about, while the mathematics exam was also considered to be fairly simple. They also didn't believe that the last exam, the one about society, would be too difficult. The history exam, meanwhile, focused on current affairs, and many of the test takers had problems with that. All in all, the first day of exams went smoothly. The only exception was an incident in Taipei's second exam district, where a student ran out of the exam room due to a stomach ache before the starting time. When the student returned, it was already 20 minutes past the allowed time for entering. The College Entrance Examination Center reminded students that anyone who feels indisposed during the course of the exams should inform test officials, because it would be too much of a pity for someone to miss out on taking the exams if they are just 1 minute late.